Alright folks, this is Gary Wise. I'm here with man of the moment. Eugene Katchalov just won himself a cool, how much? 1.5 million? 1.5 million by winning the highest buy-in tournament in the history of organized poker, the $100,000 event. His lovely new datee, Dee, is waggling her tongue behind the camera, and that actually just happened, and dear God, it was kind of sexy. I'm married though, so I'm not allowed to talk about that. I got married 2 months ago. I'm not allowed to even look at her right now. Thank you. So yeah, this is an interview for PokerStatic.com. You know, Phil Galfond, we love you. We're also going to use some of this for ESPN.com, some of the quotes that you may hear. Since this is from multiple articles, we're going to start with a pretty broad range of stuff, and we're going to work from there. So Eugene, first of all, thank you very much for doing the interview.
Sure, my pleasure.
There you go. He's a man of few words, folks. It might be a bit of an issue later on, but we'll see what we can do.
You'll have to squeeze him out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, so here I'm going to force you to give me a few more than 2 words. Tell me about your life. No, okay, so who are you, where you're from? Give me the brief stuff. You know, where'd you grow up?
I was born in Ukraine.
Okay.
I came here when I was 10 years old. Right. Here as in the U.S.
Right.
You know, kind of like struggling trying to make some money.
Were you poor people?
Yeah.
Were you decidedly poor people? Were you revoltingly poor?
No, I wouldn't say revoltingly
poor,
but you know, it was tough. It was tough going.
Okay. All right. So it was definitely a blue collar upbringing. How old were you when you came here?
10 years old.
10 years old. And what did your parents do beforehand?
My dad was basically a car salesman when we first came here. My mom was a seamstress. But then she went to school and she got a degree, and then she went to the fashion world.
Okay.
Build her way up from there.
All right. Can you tell me a little bit about your earliest gameplay experiences? Like, where do you get? Like, obviously, anybody who does as well as you have, you know, comes from at least an environment that probably has games in it, gets the fever somehow. What was the first game you were playing?
There was definitely, I used to always love games. I remember my dad used to send me to chess school.
Okay.
So I definitely took some chess. That was probably my first like competitive game that I played. But even growing up, I used to play a lot of like online strategy games. I always enjoyed card games. But poker, I didn't stop playing poker until much later.
Would you say that a lot of your poker strategizing and your thought process comes from that chess experience? You know, I think, like, okay, so I just finished doing some articles about the Mayfair Club in New York, where they had chess players, they had backgammon players, they had gin rummy players, and a lot of the guys I spoke to talked about how they benefited from one another's approach because each approach was so unique because of the games they played beforehand. Do you still see some chess in the way you play poker?
It's hard for me to see chess the way I play poker. First of all, I didn't play chess on a particularly serious level, and also when I did go to school to take chess, it was at a very young age. So I don't think I see any chess, but I think overall just the different strategy games that I played, I'm sure, you know, cultivated a gaming mind.
Right. Okay. Tell me about some of the other games you played.
I just remember I used to play like online strategy games, like war games and stuff. You have to like build armies or build cities. And,
do you remember any names?
I used to play like Warcraft 2.
Warcraft, okay.
A long time ago, I used to play like online against other people. Maybe some other games.
No, but were you playing those casually, or were you like Elky styles? You know,
no,
like
probably not as serious as Elky, but I was pretty competitive. Like I remember I was like in some ladders and like I was pretty good at it. I remember, but it was, again, this was when I was in high school. So
all right, here's the real test. When you were lying in bed trying to fall asleep, were you thinking about what you were going to do the next day in Warcraft?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, poker players. All right, so you come over from Ukraine. You guys don't have a lot of money. Obviously, there's a point where you discover poker and suddenly you have some money. Tell us a little bit about how you discovered it first of all.
I discovered it like I was bored one summer, and me and my friends were just like kind of driving around doing nothing.
Okay.
And you know, I think poker was just booming, and they were like, "Well, there's a game called poker." I was like, "Sure, let's try to play it." I'd seen it on TV a couple of times, like the World Poker Tour.
Right.
But I didn't know the rules. I didn't know anything.
So you started like 04, 05.
03, I think it was.
Okay.
03. Yeah, it was 03 definitely. That's when I graduated college. So I started, and we started playing, and we kind of just slowly got into it. And started loving the game.
What did you graduate in?
I graduated from Stern School of Business at NYU.
Okay.
I graduated with a double major, international business and finance.
I hear that business finance managers can do a lot of good when they have like 1.5 million suddenly deposited in their bank account.
Yeah, I certainly have a lot of ideas.
Okay.
What to do with the money.
Call my people, okay? So you discovered poker about 2003. Were you playing Hold'em? Were you playing all different kinds of poker? Like, what was your game?
I first started with, like, I remember with my friends, we first started with Limit Hold'em, I think. And then we quickly started playing, like, No Limit Hold'em, sit and go tournaments.
Okay.
Like the 8 of us would sit down and just play at home, like a home game. And from there, I think my friend's brother used to play on online, and I was like, wow, I didn't even play poker online. That was pretty cool. And I saw him playing like 15-30 Hold'em, which was like huge for me at the time. And I was like, wow, that's so much money, you know. And I was like, let me try. That's kind of when I started playing like $2 sit and goes and $5 sit and goes.
It starts to take off from there.
Yeah, it kind of started to take off.
You know, Eugene, I've just had a realization that with this squeaking going on in the background, all these people talking, there's a chance that people may not hear what you say, and I want people to hear what you say. I'm going to now take the camera, I'm going to hold it. You're only going to hear my booming voice from the back of it. We're going to mostly focus on you. See you, folks. All right, so here's Eugene, close up, handsome, doing very well. So basically, so you start playing 2-5, so you're a pure Hold'em player at this point, right?
At this point, yeah, I'm just a pure Hold'em player.
Do you study or do you just play? Like, are you a guy who sits down with a book for an hour and reads and really ingests it?
I think I was just playing. At first, when I first started off, I was playing like just very, very tight, playing like only the best cards. I didn't really know what was going on, but after a while, I kind of started to figure things out. I think, especially playing online quite a bit, started to figure things out.
Okay. Do you at any point become part of the community? Like, are you communicating with other poker players, or are you really just playing?
Not really. Honestly, I was just playing. The only people I was communicating with were my friends, and they weren't like, you know.
They weren't as into it as you were.
Yeah, they weren't as into it as I was, and they were kind of on my level. We were all kind of like just pure beginners.
But see, that kind of makes them the perfect guys to just keep playing against instead of venturing out into the big scary world, doesn't it? Like, how do you make that leap?
But at the same time, I can't learn from them.
Right.
If I keep playing with them, you know, it's hard to learn.
So even from early, you had this idea that you really wanted to learn and get better and improve yourself.
I don't know if it was really. I didn't know how far I was taking it because it's not like I had the idea that I'm going to do this professionally.
Right.
At the time, I saw that I was able to make enough money for like day-to-day expenses, which was great. So I started playing online more for money, just to make some extra money.
Okay.
And that worked out, and I started getting better, and I started kind of like exploring bigger tournaments, not just sit and goes, and playing more of those. And I remember I had some early semi-success and success, and I had like a small bankroll of a couple $100 or like $1,000, which helped a lot.
I'm a writer, folks. $1,000 is actually a pretty big bankroll. It's a sad state of affairs.
It was a huge bankroll for me.
So yeah, but see, that's the thing. It's really context, isn't it? Because now, what's $1,000?
Yeah, it's not. It's really not the same thing. It's all in context, obviously. But when you're playing $5 buy-in tournaments, $1,000 is a lot. I mean, it could really could last you a long time.
Have you gone to the point now where money doesn't really have value, and it's what, like, did you win on 1.5 million, or did you win 150 buy-ins or 1,500 buy-ins or what have you?
No, I think of it as money. I don't really think of it as buy-ins or anything like that. I knew what I was risking and what I stood to potentially win, and I thought I could afford the risk. So I certainly think about the money. I don't really think about it in buy-ins.
Cool. So tell me about the jump. Everybody eventually makes a jump from being a casual or slightly successful player to what you've become. Was there a eureka moment, or did you just slowly start piling up results?
There were a lot of eureka moments. It wasn't like it was like an easy move up for me. It's not like I just started making money and just kept going slowly but surely. I had a lot of downswings, and
right.
When I had a small bankroll, I would lose it quite often and go down, and just go down stakes a lot. It took me a long time to actually build up enough overall to comfortably sustain playing higher stakes, middle stakes, I guess.
Okay.
So it definitely wasn't easy. And I remember I started venturing out, playing I was playing Limit Hold'em again. I started playing Limit Hold'em online. And I continued playing No Limit Hold'em. I started playing some Heads Up, Limit Hold'em, and No Limit Hold'em. So that was pretty much as far as I ventured out in games.
You have a reputation as a very aggressive player. First of all, on a scale of 1 to 100, 1 being like an 80-year-old nun, and 100 being Isildur on crack, where would you put your aggression factor?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's not often you get asked about 80-year-old nuns in poker, I have to admit.
I would say it's probably somewhere between. It's probably somewhere around 70.
Okay.
I'd say. I don't think. I know I had to learn aggression. It's not natural to me. I know I was naturally a much more passive player when I was starting out. Like I was a very, very tight player actually. So I know. I experimented a lot with aggression, and it wasn't very successful at first because I went from like being very tight, and I realized that wasn't working, to being very aggressive, and I saw that wasn't working. So then I was trying to find some sort of middle ground that really worked, and it wasn't easy. But at some point, I kind of found some middle ground and started working on improving it from there.
Okay. Kind of lost track of where I was going there with my head for a second.
I can help you also. Another thing I was doing was again at some point in my career, maybe 3 years on the road, I became friends with Nick Schulman.
Okay.
I'm sure you will know.
We're going to talk about Nick in a little bit.
Okay.
Obviously, that dynamic of the final table is really interesting.
Yeah. So he helped me a lot in my early career. I was in the middle of my early career probably in poker, so he helped me a lot. And so we kind of he was like the one guy who actually I spoke poker with a lot.
Okay. And did obviously Nick was a guy who by 3 years ago was already pretty big time. Did he kind of introduce you to a new thought process with regards to how you should be focused on the game and focusing on the game?
I would say that's true to some degree. I mean, yeah, he was definitely, when we first became friends, he was on a much higher level than I was in poker. Right. I was playing very, very small stakes. He was already playing like the big stakes online, the biggest stake, like 1-200 limit and like 25-50 no limit, which at that time were like the biggest stakes online.
Right.
Like to me were like unheard of at the time. And we met through a mutual friend, I remember, and then we became friends. And then he went on to win his the Foxwoods tournament. At the time, he was the youngest to ever win a WPT.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. And we kind of kept going from there. And then because we lived in the same city, we would hang out a lot, and we would play in a lot of the same underground cash games. And we would discuss hands, and just kind of became really good friends from there.
Okay. All right, now your introduction of Nick kind of fast forwards us to the $100,000 a little bit. I think people know you want a WPT, but that's not why we're talking to you today. First of all, $100,000 is a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now I know that you sold off some of yourself, but certainly not all of yourself. Was that buy-in not intimidating to you at all, or is it just once we're in the tournament, it's the same guys I've played against every week for the last few years, so no big deal.
It wasn't intimidating buy-in, but I mean at the same time, I kind of going into it, I thought I'm gonna see how I'm doing financially, approaching the tournament. I mean I found out about this tournament a couple of months ago.
Okay.
So approaching this tournament, I was just thinking to myself, if I can afford it, I'll do it. I was doing pretty well. I was winning in some of the games that I was playing, so I was like, it's okay. I guess I could risk a certain proportion.
Being that the money is as big as it is it the kind of thing where if you're not on a good run over the weeks leading up to it, you don't play?
I could say that has some impact. I mean, my confidence level, because it's a big buy-in. But at the same time, I did want to play this tournament because I usually excel in tournaments where I really there's a lot of pressure and a lot of good players. I really want to do well, and I tend to play my best when I'm playing against good players.
Can you take me through the days of the tournament, just sort of give me a brief synopsis of how each day went?
The first day was rough, and to start off, I wasn't able to get any chips. I lost probably half my stack, and I think I had half my original stack going into the last level of the first day, and then I had a great last level, and I actually went up a lot, and I finished off in the top. I think I was in 7th place or 8th place going into day 2, so I had a very healthy chip stack. And I think I had a pretty healthy chip stack for most of day 2. I had some big hands, especially one versus Daniel in day 2, which was written about a lot, where I put in 2/3 of my stack pre-flop and had to fold two jacks. But I'm happy I did, because I would have been out of the tournament if I didn't, obviously. So
in hindsight, it was a good decision.
It was a $1.5 million decision.
Were they decisions that mathematically people agreed with? after the fact, like, or well, I guess your hands never got shown, so people didn't really know what you had.
Yeah, I mean, I said I had 2 jacks that hand, but I thought about that hand a lot. I'm actually like happy the way I played it. I honestly don't think I could have done anything differently after just calling pre-flop. I mean, I don't know if you know the way the hand played out, but
I remember briefly what it was.
right. Yeah, it was just Daniel opened under the gun, and I just called on the button with 2 jacks.
And then was it David Benjamin?
And the big blind moved in, but he was short, and Daniel re-raised. But his re-raise doesn't necessarily mean he has a huge hand. He might just be trying to get me out.
Right.
Because David's raise was such to where if Daniel just calls, I may just call as well. Let's say if I have like a king queen suited type hand, I might want to really take a flop. I might just call. So it looked to me, just because Daniel's re-raising, it doesn't mean necessarily that he has a strong hand. And 2 jacks are obviously like the 4th strongest hand in poker. So I decided to re-raise, but at the same time, I almost re-raised all in. But at the same time, I decided let me just re-raise it small because it'll get the same effect. I don't think he's going to think I'm like messing around here. So I figured I'll just re-raise it small, and he'll know I have a big hand. He'll fold. And then when I re-raised small, he moved all in. Now I was like, well, that's kind of a problem. I didn't really expect him to do that. But I was like, I guess he does have a big hand because he knows I'm going to call here very, very often. So I was trying to think of a hand that he could have. I don't think he could have had 2 10s in that spot. So I don't think I could have been ahead. I was trying to consider ace king. That was pretty much the only thing. I was getting pretty good odds if he has ace king, but at the same time, knowing Daniel,
it's not really his MO to shove on ace king.
I don't think it's not. I think ace king is a very small part of his range there. It's not very often he's going to show up there with like ace king suited, even like ace king suited. And also looking at him, just my read was that he was strong. Like the way he put his chips in and the way it kind of turned out, my read was that he was pretty strong. He did. I mean, so. After like thinking about it for like 3-4 minutes, I decided to fold.
Okay.
So even though I had like, I put in like basically a bunch of my chips.
So after you lose all those chips, I think that for mere mortals, there would be an inclination to sort of get down on yourself, sort of have this emotional outpouring of God damn, I just lost 2/3 of my chips, with $1.5 million on the line, like God damn it.
Yeah.
How do you keep your head in the game at that point?
I think a lot of it has to do with experience. Just that I've been playing poker already for 7 or 8 years. I've experienced I think pretty much everything there is to experience in poker, like in regards to hands, in regards to beats. So I try to not get emotional when it comes to these things. I mean I do inside, but I try to control it as much as I can. And I realized I was like, well, I had 1.3 million. Now I have 500,000. But I'm just right away. What I started doing is I try to forget that I had 1.3 million.
Right.
I try to remember that I have 500,000. And how do I play now? How should I change my strategy now that I have only 500,000? I just basically try to adjust.
Okay. So final table. Obviously a big deal going in. Were you third in chips? I'm sorry.
I was third in chips.
Yeah. Okay. How did you like your chances against that field going in?
I felt like my chances were fair. I didn't think I was like. I mean, I certainly thought my chances of winning weren't particularly good. I mean, because the final table was stacked with a lot of very, very good players, very tough players. But I thought I had a pretty decent chance, But I definitely thought Nick had the best chance. I mean, he had all the chips.
Right.
I think he's an amazing player too.
So let's talk about Nick a little bit. It's a strange thing to be sitting at the table with your best friend, wanting nothing more than to see that person who's obviously very important to you lose their entire stack. Can you talk and we hear a lot, poker players saying we all go to the table with the understanding that that it's nothing personal and all that, but obviously it has to be personal to a certain extent. Can you talk about that a little bit?
It has to be personal. I mean, to some extent, but me and Nick spoke about it a long time ago that. We agreed that if we're going to be playing poker together, there are going to be times when we're going to be on the same table. We can't help it. And really the only ethical thing to do is to just play against each other as we would anyone else. Even though it's tough, I mean, probably don't bluff each other as much as maybe other people.
Well, I was going to say,
that's a little bit awkward.
I know when I sit down at a table, even with with anyone, I'm talking and I'm having a good time, and I'm going to say stuff that's meant to misdirect them.
Yeah.
Are you trying to misdirect Nick when you're sitting with him?
No. First of all, I generally don't speak at the table. I mean, not for that purpose at least. I don't do that. It's kind of like not really part of my game.
Okay.
But especially with Nick, it's kind of awkward. Well, first of all, we know about each other's games more than then I guess I know about his game more than anyone else does, and he knows more about my game than anyone else does. So it's kind of an awkward situation. So it creates like an interesting dynamic between us, where we really it might look like we're doing really wacky things to other people just because there's a lot of thinking going on between us. Whereas when I'm playing against other people, I may not know as much about their games, so I try to play a little bit more standard in certain spots.
All right. When Nick gets knocked out, are you pumping the fist or are you down?
I'm not pumping my fist. As happy as I am that there's less people in the tournament, left in the final table. It's always been a dream for us to kind of go heads up in a tournament, especially as big as this one. It would just be so much fun. So it's kind of upsetting. I kind of want him to be there, and I don't. It's hard for me not to root for him.
Sure.
So.
Well, that's good. That makes you a good friend.
Yeah.
And you're a bastard for taking advantage of it.
Yeah. And also, me, him, and Daniel spoke before the final table. We said that if it's the three of us left, if it's me, him, and Daniel left in the top three, we'll do shots also, and just have a little fun. So I was kind of looking forward to that too.
That's too bad. That would be good TV. Mm-hmm. So yeah, speaking of TV, you've been doing a lot of TV lately. I've been seeing you a lot of the big game, and now you got this. Are you starting to think at all about exposure and branding and the S word, sponsorship, stuff like that? Are you starting to look at it more seriously?
I'm considering it. I'm certainly considering it. I'll see, I guess, what kind of offers there are, and it's certainly an option.
Am I allowed to ask if you've been approached yet?
It's in the works. We'll see. I don't know.
Oh, he's being very secretive, folks.
Not being secretive, but it's just I don't know anything yet. I have no details. I wish I did, but I don't.
All right. So, no, that's fair. That's fair. So, moving forward, aside from the sponsorship deal that we're not going to talk about, how are you? Obviously, you are full time. You're a big deal. You're here to stay. But what at that point, like you said, you want to get better, and you're a competitive guy. What goals do you set for yourself now that you've won a $100,000 buy-in and you've won, the bigged WPT this side of, David Williams?
Yeah. I think at this point I haven't won a bracelet yet. It'd be nice to win a bracelet. I've made I think 5 final tables, but I haven't won a bracelet. It's kind of frustrating. So I definitely would like to do that. And
what are you gonna do the other 10 months of the year though?
I think I'm gonna continue doing what I've been doing. I don't travel to every single location, but I travel to the big tournaments, which I enjoy, and I like playing cash games. I like playing mixed games online and live, and big games live. So. Have
you started any home game clubs yet? Be honest.
Home
game clubs. PokerStars' new new home game. Okay, no. That's disappointing. I'm sorry, PokerStars. I tried for you. You're just not about the new tech. I understand.
Not yet.
But okay, so what do you like to play though? So you're doing tournaments and cash games, obviously. You're playing live and online.
I play almost all games.
Okay.
At this point I've branched out to where I think I'm pretty competent in all the games. I certainly enjoy mixed games a lot lately, so that's pretty much all I play online.
It seems like big stakes poker is now trending back towards pre-moneymaker days, where it was all you play whatever everybody wants to play, and you're playing all kinds of games, and it's not about being strong at a game, it's about not being weak at a game. Do you like that development?
I think I do. I mean, because I think a lot of people who used to play just No Limit Hold'em or just any one game, there's so many good players in just No Limit Hold'em or just Spot Limit Omaha or Limit Hold'em. To now it's hard to find a good game in just those games. But when you're playing a mixed game where there are 8 games or 10 games, it's almost never do you find one person who's just really good in every single game. So they might be good in some games, but they're
at the same time,
good in other games. So it makes it a lot of fun.
It seems like if you're good at 7 games and shit at Padugi, for example,
right.
You're still in trouble in a game like that, right?
Well, it depends. Now it depends on other players. How good are they in Padugi?
Sure.
So, but it's fun because for me, Padugi is also new to me. So I'm trying to learn it, along with the rest, mixed games population.
Is it important to you to keep the game fresh that way, to have new experiences to try to exploit a little bit? Because I know for me, I got bored of Hold'em.
Right. As did I. I get bored of playing one game all the time. That's why I kind of started playing mixed games.
Okay.
But I definitely enjoy the challenge of learning a new game and and competing with other high stakes players who are just smart and very good at it.
Okay. How are you going to put, now that you have the money that you won in the 100K in the bank, or at least it's on PokerStars and going towards the bank, how are you going to put the business and economics degrees to work? You know, are you starting to really look now at venturing out into business as opposed to just doing the poker thing? Or?
Well, I used to be a trader also for a long time.
Okay.
And in addition to being a poker player, I used to have my own fund for a little while, but I'm closing it down right now because I realize I can't do both at the same time. And since poker's been going so well for me, I decided to just
two activities that require 12 hours a day.
Exactly.
Much.
So
okay.
I can't do both. Like I would have to give 100% to both, and I just can't do that.
Right.
And so I decided to concentrate on poker for now, since I've been doing very well in it. And I don't know how long I'll stay in it, but at some point I may venture out back into trading. I don't know. But yeah, with this kind of win, I you know, using my trader background, I'm definitely looking at potential investments in the stock market and stuff like that, where I may want to put my money in.
Tell me about your parents' reaction to all this. And this is something that you can ask just about anybody who's done well in poker. But you're a guy who's coming from, you know, pretty meager background,
yeah.
and you know they literally made the stereotypical move to America to get my son a better life kind of move. You know how they've got to be on cloud nine, right?
Yeah, my dad when I spoke to him the second I won. He called me and he was like crying on the phone. I was talking to him. It was sweet. I mean, he's like my biggest fan.
Is there anything better than that?
No, there's really nothing. I mean, like I almost started crying. It's just a really emotional moment. It's really cool. My mom also, like, she follows me all the time. And, it's great. I mean, my parents are like really supportive of me. It's really cool. I'm like very fortunate in that.
Cool. Have you played a lot of other events here?
I've only played the main event.
Okay.
And I went deep in that too. So.
Now, we talked about D earlier, so you're obviously here with divided interests. I'm gonna now take this opportunity to show people D.
D, say hello.
Say hello to all the horny teenagers out there.
Please God, no. Hello.
And her friend Jamie.
And hi, Jamie.
She might help too.
Now, see, folks, you don't have to win a $1.5 million tournament to be dating D, because they were together before that happened.
Exactly.
Okay.
She may have had something to do with it too.
Don't think this is one of the specific benefits, but yeah. Keeps her in the style to which she's become accustomed. So, oh no, this doesn't get cut. This thing's just going up straight. So you guys are totally making it. On pokerstatic.com. Okay, there you go. Just in case you forgot what you're watching, folks. All right. Well, you know, it's been really cool getting to know you a bit. You like you said, you're very quiet on television, so I didn't know if you were going to be that outgoing for an interview. But you've been refreshing. You've been interesting and fun. I've enjoyed it.
Gary, yeah.
Folks can see my hand. There you go. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thanks, Gary.
Cheers. Congratulations.
Thank you.